Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell. Welcome to a cold and snowy Moscow. Welcome to a new apartment video. Yes, everybody's favorite thing on the channel right now. I'm coming to see a brand new apartment that's for rent. Nobody's ever lived there. It's up on the 17th level on the top floor, the penthouse. Let's go check it out. I think for anybody that's a long-time viewer of the channel, you know that one of my favorite shops in all of Russia is Pitorichka. And this is a very typical supermarket. There's more than 20,000 of them in the country. And there's one attached to the building. So if I was to live here, I'd be in heaven. I could walk right in, and they've got 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. opening. They've actually got the flag outside. I think this must have recently opened brand new, because this is a new complex. So no supermarket tour today. We're going to go around the corner and do an apartment tour. After a few days of snowing and not so nice weather, the sun is out. It's now almost too bright. And the lower level of these apartment buildings are all commercial properties. And of course, the supermarket right there. And then, being that it's a new building, not all of the spaces are occupied. But across the way there is a beauty salon. There's a beer and wine shop. There's another supermarket over there. And then you can actually see the other buildings that were all built under the same developer here. And they actually like to put a little bit of color into them at the same time. And then, because it's less than a year since this was completely finished, slowly the different businesses will move into the spaces. And then you can see off in the distance the other apartments. There's actually a kindergarten and primary school right here as well. So everything is close to home, and you don't need to go very far if you don't need to. Of course, with the snow on the ground, it's a little bit hard to make out, but this seating area, and then in another few months, the trees will become much more beautiful, and it looks like a completely different place. I always like the fact that when they do the developments, that they put the schools in and the infrastructure around the area. This is actually a requirement from the government. They don't just build endless apartments and do nothing else and leave. So this is always nice. There is parking around the territory as well. So there's plenty of spaces for everybody coming and going. There's always magically one space free whenever you come to the buildings. Coming in the apartment, if you're an owner or if you're renting, naturally you'd have some keys and then this little tag here that you can tap to open the door. If you want to call up to the apartment, you can put the apartment number in, and then there's actually either a phone or a camera, and the person can then remotely open the door for you. So it's really easy. Let's head on inside. So there's always this double doorway in apartments, and that's really more for the weather, and especially where we've had some snow the last few days. And then the minute you come into this middle area here, you already see the radiators and central heating. And then you've got over here the information for the building, all of the contact numbers if you need to do something. I'm fairly sure the lady that I passed there is actually moving in. Looks like she's got all her moving boxes for the apartment. And then over here, I think, okay, so yeah, if people have got the ground floor, either apartments or businesses, this is the rear access, and then the letterboxes, and then plenty of them. Again, the really only reason they're used in Russia is for this one piece of paper, which is the utilities for the building. So I think in America they call it HOA. In Australia we call it strata. And that's pretty much the only thing you'll ever get in a letterbox in Russia. Before I head up to the apartment, let's actually go outside here. And this is the middle area between the buildings. And this is an area which is gated, or at least part of the territory of this micro district. And then you can see, so the building we're going to go to is here on the immediate right, and then the buildings next door. You can see off in the distance some more construction going on. And the bit I want to show you though, although it's very snowed over, is the kids' playground. And because this is completely secure, kids can come down here on their own. Maybe if parents come down, there's some seating over there, and the kids can come and play on this nice adventure playground. It's very nice, really. I know I say these things a lot, and then some people think that I'm just, you know, making things up. But I'm very easily impressed with things, and just the amount of finishing that the developers have put into these properties, and they're doing it with families in mind, with kids in mind. This is actually the back windows to the supermarket right here where we started the video. And actually, depending on some of the businesses, you normally have a second door where you can go in from the apartments, and it's only available to people that live here, and you'd use your door tag to get into the supermarket that way. Yeah, this lower ground floor here will be some other businesses at some point, maybe a cafe or a hairdresser's or something like that. Let's get on inside and head upstairs. Let's head on inside. Now, one thing I want to show you here is some Russian graffiti. Now, we need to go up to the top floor, to 17. Now, when they build brand new apartments, they put some protection around the paneling, and then about a year or so from now, they'll remove this. Now, this isn't graffiti, and it isn't anything malicious. This is all the different guys that can come and do things like your plumbing, or your electrical work, or if you want to get a kitchen installed, or maybe the Wi-Fi installed. And this is something that's very typical in Russia, particularly in new buildings. And they want to protect the structure of the elevator, which is completely normal. And then at some point, they will remove this. Once a certain percentage of people have moved in, they'll do that. And here we are, coming out of the elevator on the 17th level, or the top floor. There is a few different doors here. So there is one door going to the apartment on the right-hand side of the building, and one on the left. Cameras. This is actually the corridor for the stairs, or emergency exit. I like how there's a call button, who perhaps someone needs assistance opening the doors. And then there is also a pin-coded keypad-like downstairs to get into the corridor. Now, because I've got the actual button here, you just tap it right here, and then the lady says the door's open. You could use the pin code to open that as well, and you don't need to do it if you have the keys, of course. And then the corridor right here. Now, there is a few apartments here where people haven't moved in yet. This is a brand new building, so that's expected. This is where we need to go in just a minute. And I'll just show you some of the technical things here. On the left is the junction box for the electric. So if you want to read your electricity meter, it's right there. And on the right is for the water meter, and each one is individually numbered. So you can open your panel. Then actually the internet and television connection is in the other panel over there. And actually these lights, the reason why it's dark at the end is this motion activated lighting. As you walk along the corridor, the lights pop on and off. Let's head on inside the apartment. And I've actually got the door open already, just to make it easier. I've also taken my shoes off as well. It's customary to do that. I did actually put a poll on my community tab about whether you take your shoes off or not when you go to somebody else's house. And I think it's interesting, the poll results. Now as I come into the apartment, you'll see here, nice open space, kitchen on the left, and then the lounge room area, a bedroom on the right. And then if I just spin around nice and slowly, you'll see here where I came in the doorway. And then there is actually the technical things here. So this is the breaker box for the power, the Wi-Fi right here. I think that might be the fire monitor. I'm not sure what they call that, but I think that's the one. And then there is actually a wardrobe here built in, which is really nice. You can put your coats, a little bit of storage. You can put your shoes. It's always nice. And then depending on the apartment, some people put a little side table here for your keys. Actually, there's one right here. That makes sense. Let's go in reverse a little bit and let's go see the bathroom. What I will say is the doors and door frames are very nice. This is a brand new apartment. Nobody has lived here. Nobody has even, I think, used the toilet here. I'm not sure, but completely brand new. And exactly what you see is exactly what you get. The bathroom is very straightforward. Of course, bath with shower. I like these lighted mirrors. They're really cool. And then, of course, the washing machine in the bathroom. Being that it's a smaller apartment, you don't have a separate place for this. You could have put it in the kitchen, but very typically it's here because of the pipes. So all the pipes for the apartment come into the wall behind where the toilet is here, and actually the technical space right here. There is a heated towel rail, which is really nice. Actually, this is not switched on, but it can be easily switched on. Has anybody got a black washing machine? Let me know. Actually, it kind of fits nicely with the tiles because it's got the black grout. And then very basic, classic toilet. And then when they did some remodeling, they actually put this cupboard in here on top, which is giving you all your storage for the cleaning things and cloths and whatever you want to do. So it's very nice. And I think when we get to the end of the video and talk about the price, you'll see it's very reasonably priced. Let's have a look. So this open plan area, now this is considered what they call a one-room apartment. And then for me, it's considered a one-bedroom apartment because there is the separate bed over here, or bedroom. And then this open area or lounge room right here. I did switch a few of the lights on. However, because you've got a nice big window, you've got plenty of light coming in during the day here, so you don't actually need full lighting. There's a little dining room table, perfectly fine. Now this apartment would be suitable for someone living alone or somebody that's a couple, perhaps somebody with one child, because you could make it work with the bedroom, and then the sofa bed could pull out as an extra bed as well. Nice dark kitchen. This is something I like. And the black sink, we just put one of these in our place as well. My wife loves it. This big sink. And this is actually the same company of kitchen designer as the one that we got for our place as well. So you've got the oven, and then the hot plate right here. You can get a 2 or 4 burner. It really doesn't matter. It's really how much you're gonna cook. Microwave, and then the fridge. Have a look. If you move in, you get some eggs and milk as well. That's a bit of a bonus. Fridge, freezer, and then all of the usual cupboards. Actually, there's a little bit of stuff in the cupboards, so it's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm going to keep saying that or repeating it because the fact that it's a brand new apartment and the fact nobody's lived here. So you could rent this sort of place, move in, just bring your luggage, and that's it. So this sofa here could pull out to be a sofa bed, and then ideally you could have a cupboard here and put a TV on the wall. I know for the owners of this place, they're not particularly into televisions, but it's possible that you can do that. And then the desk looking out, nice curtains as well. Everything matches. Somebody's put a little bit of effort into this. And then there is central heating from the building coming in through these radiators. And then actually there is a split system air conditioner on the wall, which I think, let's just spin around and show it right here. So you could use this if you want to in summertime. You wouldn't use this very much. You could turn it on now and do the heat. But actually just with the central heating in apartments, you don't need any more heat in here. You're almost opening the windows because it's so warm. And then you've got this view outside. So this is the top floor penthouse. And that's how it was described to me. I really love top floor apartments. If I could move a little bit higher up in my building, I would. But you get a nice view looking out across to the other territories. Now, of course, the one thing that was explained to me about coming here is you're living in a metropolis. You're living in a city with 15 or 17 million people, and you're not going to have this unfiltered, endless view out of a window. And the fact that this is actually an apartment micro-district that was built with multiple buildings, you know, at some point you're going to have to look at something. But that view back across to some of the older apartments, you can see plenty of parking downstairs as well. And then the shops, I think it's completely fine. As I spin around, table here, so you got the sockets, everything set up if you want to put a TV there. And very nice finishing as well. These are the same doors that are in our place, and they're just so nice and so clean looking. And you come into the bedroom, and there's more than enough space to move around. You've got the same repeated window right there, and then there is a nice wardrobe there to put your stuff. And actually under the bed as well, you can put some boxes or containers. You've got, I think, the same view. Actually one spot over. You'll actually see here, these are the boxes that they put on the side of the building where people choose to put extra air conditioning into an apartment. You can see that on the opposite building, and then where people have done it or not. Pretty much for this apartment you don't need two of the motors. One is fine. So it runs from outside and then goes in the wall space to the wall mounted split system. So yeah, what do you think? Could you live here? You know, the size of the place. I mean, if I think about my wife and I, we could make this work. We would like a little bit more space. The fact that I'm on my computer and using the office desk a lot, we would probably want a little bit more room. However, for a young couple or someone moving out on their own or someone coming to Russia, if you were thinking about moving here, this is more than adequate. And the fact it's brand new, literally, you can actually smell that it's new when you're in here. You know how you get that new smell of the furniture, and you can smell the wood from the kitchen and things like that. And that's definitely what I feel when I'm walking around. I thought I'd just do one more view from back against the lounge room window. It's a nice comfy sofa as well. If you have watched some other videos, depending on the size of the apartment, people get smaller sofas. And I like something you can lounge on and slump on and perhaps not sit properly on it. But there is ample space. You know, you could definitely make this work. You could almost move the table over to this spot here, and you've got more room in this corner over here for maybe another chair or sofa. And I think it's good. That air conditioning. And then the bedroom one more time. Okay everybody, so I'm actually back home now, and I thought I'd go through the information about the apartment. I do normally do the endings at the place where I am, but I've just not been feeling very well the last few days. I've actually been home for a couple of days. I'm filming this a few days later. I do happen to have the same shirt on though. I've had this persistent cough, just a general cold and a blocked nose, a bit of everything. Today I'm actually feeling better. I've actually shaved, I've cleaned myself up a little bit and got up off the canvas, as Rocky would say, and I thought I'd go through information. I think I also didn't mention where the apartment was located, and I normally do that at the start of the video. You can see how much my head was a bit confused, and it's in the Textilitsky region of Moscow. There is a metro station there called Textilshchiki. I always get it wrong. I do know the area though. It's actually not far from where the Moscovich car factory was, where I did the video more than a year ago now. And the actual micro district is completely brand new, and new school right there, a kindergarten, new shops all around, and new gardens. Of course, with the snow, it never looks as beautiful. You know, some people do like it with its snow on the ground, but once it's blooming and spring and summertime, it's a whole different place. Now, geographically, it's only 3 metro stations going back into Moscow, so it's not actually that far if you want to go to the center of Moscow. By car, it works out right about 30 minutes if you want to drive physically in a vehicle from that apartment to Red Square. I've mentioned this in quite a lot of videos that most people don't typically go to Red Square who live in Moscow. Maybe you're going to go visit there with some friends who are on holiday, or maybe there's a certain event going on that you might bring you there. Even myself, living in Moscow, I don't go to Red Square every second day. I go to other parts of Moscow to make videos like this one. So it's really not that far from the center of Moscow, and it's still actually considered Moscow where you live. Now, it's, you can actually walk to the metro station from there. It's around about 20 minutes walk to the metro station. It's perhaps for me, it was a little bit further because it was the first time going there, but once you live in the area, it's really easy to get to and from public transport. I would say there's even probably a bus nearby that would take you into Moscow or to at least another part of the city if you didn't want to catch the metros, which are the most popular form of transport in Moscow. So the apartment is for rent, and as you saw it, it's fully furnished, barring the food in the fridge. Everything you see is what you would actually get if you were to move in as a fully furnished apartment. That's very typical in Moscow. I'm going to put the little information up here. I hope it's popped up. And it was a 1-room apartment. And as you saw when I walked in, there was that open plan area with the kitchen, lounge, and dining area, a kitchen, a separate bathroom, and a separate bedroom. And actually the bedroom was spacious. It had that cupboard as well. 32 square meters was the actual size of the apartment. And of course you saw how it was nice and secure. You've got the key tag entry, cameras. There was the internal courtyard area with the garden and play area for kids. Actually, you could even go walk to another playground if you wanted to, if you weren't happy with the one where you live. But the kids that live in these buildings, they generally play where they live, and they meet the kids that live in other apartments there. So it was up on the 17th level. That was actually the top floor or the penthouse of that particular building. Of course, if you noticed, the other buildings nearby were a little bit higher and lower, and that's very normal when they build micro districts. They like to mix up the design of them a little bit. So top floor. So you don't have any upstairs neighbors, and that's actually something that people like in terms of hearing sound in the apartment. I mean, honestly, a lot of people do comment on this a lot. I mean, even in my building where I live, I very rarely hear my neighbors. I know we do have neighbors on either side of us, and it's almost rare you hear anybody, even somebody playing music. It's very rare that that happens. So yeah, fully furnished, 32 square meters, 1-room apartment, and it's available for rent. Now, the price for rent. Now, this price I think is very reasonable for this apartment. It would rent for 50,000 rubles per calendar month. Of course, 4 weeks makes up a month. And the exchange rates I'll put right here. In US currency, $598. In euros, $527. In pounds, 457 pounds. Canadian money, $830. And Australian, $958. So now I've got a whole lot of different currencies. I'm sure someone will put in the comments, I want to hear it in Antarctica currency. So I don't think there's even 1 there. So yeah, these are the different exchange rates. And as a brand new apartment, it's never been lived in. No one's ever even sat on the bed or anything like that. So it's a very nice apartment. A lot of people sometimes don't want to rent an older building or an older apartment or something with older furniture. So here's an opportunity to rent a brand new apartment. And my question always, could you live there? You know, could this be where you would rent in Moscow? Perhaps you're moving to Russia and that's somewhere that you'd think about wanting to move into. I could certainly live there. I mean, it would absolutely suit one person to live alone or a couple. Perhaps somebody with a small child, it would be suitable and manageable. So yeah, all the information about the location of it will be in the description. If you want to find out where it is geographically, I'll put the pin and the link and description together for you on the video. If you want to follow my Telegram channel, click this link. You can click it and I post a lot of my daily content there. And if you want to watch an old video on the channel, perhaps another apartment tour, click this link and you can keep traveling with Russell. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.